What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training. Today we're going to be breaking down how wide receivers can run a curl route correctly with the least amount of steps and the least amount of time spent at the top of the break. So this is a route here from Garrett Wilson. This is him training this offseason. We're going to be talking about how your guys' pivot step and your hook step at the top of the break are two of the most important steps on this. So let's watch this clip full speed. So Wilson's going to be running this curl route, snapping this thing down, and then coming back to that ball. So when we do this, right, the main thing that so many wide receivers do is they try to eliminate steps here rather than selling vertical. Okay, now I know in the beginning of this I said, how can you eliminate steps, right? Steps are going to come after you understand the concept of selling vertical, dropping your hips violently, and being explosive with your hips, right? Everything about route running is about the three phases. You got to be able to have a great stem on the route. You got to be able to have explosion at the top of the route because that explosion at the top of the route leads to acceleration back to the ball. It's like running a 40-yard dash. Those first 10 yards of that 40, you're not standing straight up and tall and just trying to accelerate right now. You're creating energy. They call it the drive phase, right? So the top of the route is essentially the drive phase, right? So what so many guys do is that they just are so caught up in getting out in the least amount of steps is that before they snap down with their hips, they start to turn their shoulder and they start to turn their hips, right? So before that foot even gets down in the ground, they call it a trigger step. Before that even gets in the grass, they start to round with their shoulders and their hips. Now, if I'm a DB sitting in man coverage and I see you start to turn your upper body, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to try to drive on this ball, right? Now, everybody can make the argument about, oh, well, he's just going to run a double move and he'll get him. But again, we got to have no indicators on my break. The hip drop has to be what slows me down, right? The main thing you should be concerned with is keeping your hips and your shoulders committed fade, staying in stride, and the hip drop that he does is what gets him into the break. So what do I mean by hip drop? You have to be violent with your hips. You have to drop down quickly. You have to drop your butt, and you want your chest to be going forward. You want to try, like the way I tell my receivers, pretend there's a string attached to your chin, and somebody's pulling that string down right to your knee, because this is the low explosive position to be able to decelerate on a dime, but also you sell vertical. Trust your hips to be the thing that slows you down. Don't round it. Don't try to get out of it too quick. You want to hip drop first, and then we want to be worried about getting out of it. So now, how do you get out of this thing fast? It all comes down to your second step after you guys snap down, okay? But before we get into that second step, before we talk about what's going to get you out with the most explosion in the least amount of time possible, I want to talk to you guys about a great opportunity we are having this offseason, fellas. We are traveling out to 8 different cities across the United States for 2-day-long quarterback and wide receiver training camps. So if you guys are local to one of these 8 cities, check out that very first link in the description below where you guys can get access to all the information about it. We're coming out to Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California. These camps, guys, we're limiting spots to only 10 to 12 guys per position group, only because we actually want to take the time to develop you and actually coach you, right? Too often, these camps will get 50, 60 quarterbacks, receivers per groups, and they're just running guys through drills because they're on a time schedule and they have to finish the camp and they want to get everybody reps. No, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to get everybody reps, but we're actually going to coach you with the reps. We're actually going to teach you and show you what you're doing wrong. So if you guys want some more information on that, want to get some great work in with myself and my staff of coaches, check out that very first link in the description below. Again, 8 cities we're traveling to this offseason. Let's get back to this video, right? So now we're talking about the second step that gets you out. This is the step that trips up a lot of guys. Because guys will snap down, right? But like I said, they start to turn early because they're so worried about the amount of steps at the top of the break. I'm not worried about steps, especially if you're a beginner, especially if you're a receiver who's maybe not even in college yet. I'm more so worried about eliminating time wasted and selling vertical, because that's what will get you separation, right? So again, what's going to get your hips turned down this cone, because so many people want to get their hips turned so they can locate the ball, is the second step after the snap down. They call it a pivot step, right? So you want to make sure that we are snapping with the outside leg on this curl route. I'm violent with my hips, chin's going to my knee. That's what brings me to balance. Now, what gets my hips around this cone nice and tight is I have to pivot that step, because that pivot step, when you pivot your hip or your toe, that's what makes your hips pivot. And then that third step has to hook back around, because now this is your drive step. I call it a snap, a pivot, then a hook. Now, you don't even necessarily have to get out cleanly in that third step if maybe you're a beginner, because you see, even Garrett Wilson, probably the best route runner in the draft class this year, he pivots, he hooks, and then you see how he takes a 4th step. And then what does he take? He takes a 5th step right there, and then he gets out of the break, right? So he's taking 5 steps at the top of the route. A lot of people are like, oh, he needs to take 3. Oh, he needs to take 2. No, he's selling vertical. He's dropping on a dime, and he's creating creating energy to shoot back to the ball. I guarantee you he takes 5 steps faster than a lot of the high school receivers who claim they can get out in 3 to 2 steps because they are slowing down, they are giving an indicator, and that's why they don't get any separation. He gets separation because he's explosive with his break point, he sells vertical, and that explosion at the top of the route shoots him back to the ball. The steps will get your hips turned, but that explosion, you cannot make up for that when you have that violent hip drop and you commit your shoulders to the break. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Wilson being violent with the hips, pivoting that foot, driving off that hook leg to accelerate back to that ball. All right, guys, we want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys as well. You guys keep the channel going and help me come up with any new ideas. Really, most of the ideas that we post about are from you guys, so we really appreciate it, you guys. And again, fellas, if you're local to one of those 8 cities that we were traveling out to this offseason, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our off-season camps in Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Los Angeles, California. So very first link below. Want some more information on that, you guys? I'll see you next time.